One. Wow, this is episode
We are live.
118. We're back.
118. We're almost 120, bro. This is great.
We're back, bro.
We're back with our side. What was the word? Shoot, I forgot the word.
What is the word?
What is the word?
It's the title of the episode.
What is the word? Honestly,
What are you telling me?
what is a word?
What is
Wanted to jump
good?
into that.
What is a word?
Yeah.
What is a word?
I'm just kidding, you guys. He's dude.
Philosophy.
The word is that's it. Philosophy. Right. Sorry,
That's
so
good. We're
sorry,
gonna
I
have a
forgot.
lot to talk about.
We are.
Yeah, true. Amir, thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Yeah, man.
yeah,
thank
I
you for
enjoyed
having
that
me,
last
man.
episode. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Last time we tapped in,
It
but now
was.
we got to go deeper. I want to tell you, Amir, about this new thing I've been trying for meditation. Start
Okay.
off.
Absolutely.
I got this VR headset. I got the Quest, and there's an app called Trip, right? And essentially, it's like a guided meditation in VR, and
Okay.
it's like one of the coolest things. I know, right?
It's amazing.
I mean,
Can you
it's-
can you walk me through the guided
Yeah.
meditation? Like,
I'll
what
tell
is it
you
like?
exactly. I tried it this morning, and it's like, you start off and like you're in space and there are stars around you, and then you're just supposed to like follow the stars, and like the VR, it matches your attention focus, so you're supposed to follow the stars, and then there's like breathe in, breathe out, but you can like they show you the visual of like you're breathing in something, you're breathing out, you see like like dust, like spark dust, in, out, in, out, right? And then you do that for a bit, breathing, and it's guided. So there's like this female voice. She's like, now take a deep breath in. Out.
Did you ever fall asleep while wearing the thing because of how like relaxing it was?
And then it was like, I didn't fall. Well, it was, you're supposed to be like focused. And then it was like, well, for me, it was so new. I was just like, what's happening? And
Yeah.
they said, follow the light. And there's this big light comes, and you look in, and you go through it, and then it takes you into like the forest. And then from there you have like, it's this game where like you're supposed to focus on, so like things start coming your way. You have like discs that you're supposed to look at, and you have like blocks that you're not supposed to look at. So just tracking your attention as like you're following, you look at, it's like Fruit Ninja, but like with your attention. And it's like a guided meditation thing.
So not a game for me.
I mean, the visuals and the description you talk about, I think they're very heavy in occult themes, like the occult meditation, transcendental meditation that they practice. They often have those themes of like forests and space, but you're supposed to imagine all of that, because a lot of like what occultism is about has to do with visualizing your reading or your
I thought the occult was basically trying to spawn Satan or something, and now you're saying something else. Which
I
is
mean,
kind of
occult means like well, the definition of the word, I believe, has something to do with an ambiguous, unclear.
here. How about we search what?
What is the occult? That's true.
Yeah, so it's not very like clear sect, you know. It's just people that used to come together and practice the specific things together.
So mystical, supernatural, or magical powers, practices, or phenomena
Yeah.
involving or relating to mystical, supernatural, or magical. Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, like they do things like the tarot readings and stuff. That's some of the things that occult would do. It's very, what you described is very similar to the kind of meditations they do, because apparently you want to. And I don't know how factual this is, and I haven't really practiced it very much myself. But the idea is they want to strengthen their third eye, or so to speak, so that they can visualize things better. But there's another association with that, with like Taoist philosophy. So you know how the pineal gland is what's responsible for dreams, right?
Yep.
And so what they would do is the Taoists, they would meditate in the dark for up to a week, so that the pineal gland would get activated during their waking period, and they would experience dreams while they're awake.
That's just called the self-induced trip, my guy.
Yeah.
That's called
Basically.
shrooms without the shrooms, my guy.
Yeah, that's the same concept, right? They want to get insight into the subconscious. They want to see where their mind will go in a much more visual way than
with like more like they're more conscious while it's happening because they're not asleep, right?
no. Yeah.
So okay, that's actually really cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
But a lot of like what meditation is about is not really about that, because okay, first of all, if we go back like in history, and when we go to the Vedic period, right, that's where the Indian philosophy kind of started, right? And with that, and after a few years, so Vedic period is between 1700 BC to 500 BC, right? So in 500 BC, that's when we started getting Buddhism, right? And it came out from a specific branch of Hinduism. And there was different branches. So there was the Charvaka, for example, which was like an atheist-focused branch of Hinduism, right? They had their own skepticism school of thought, right? And Charmana, which is the one where Buddhism came from, it was heavily focused on awakening and emptiness, right? So what meditation has root in, and even the word, it comes from med, right? So med meaning to take appropriate measures for. So you have medicate, to take appropriate measures to heal the body, and meditation is also to take appropriate measures to contemplate one's self, one's nature, thoughts, right? So in other words, meditation was a form to medicate the brain. And with time, what happened when Buddhism came in society, like when I ask you a question like, well, where does a Buddhist monk live? Well, you'll know it's somewhere in the mountains in a temple, What do they do for a living? Well, they don't work. They just clean their temple. They live on like minimal food, and the community supports them, right? So their position in society was very much like a rebellion, right? It was an option for people to unplug from the other responsibilities of being part of that country and participate in a simple community that now takes care of you, and you don't really ask much in return, right? And when that grew in popularity and it came to the Western world, it did come with that. There was like in the 70s and 80s, there was very much that theme of
no possessions,
right? Possession, yeah. And even the rebellion against the government, right? If you remember, like people would get like arrested on the streets even for like because they'd be so open about possession of drugs, they'd be open about nudity and things like that, right? And that rebellious ideology, it came with it, but it didn't have any root in culture, so that's why it fell apart quite quickly. There was no American basis to that. It was just it was an idea adopted, so it fell apart quite quickly. But the thing that remained was the therapeutic approach of the meditation practice that people like now carried with them, because it was advertised as something for people in white collar positions. Oh, you're stressed out, come do this thing. And then there was always the religious appeal, right, for people who are searching for meaning, right? There were the sutras, the cycle of birth and death, all those associations with it. Now the things that lasted now, when it comes to the meditation practice, you have the religious and the therapeutic. Those are the main things that lived on, right? In these states, right? There's no real rebellion of Buddhists walking around in the US, right? But there's definitely there's a few like associations of Buddhism in North America. There's plenty of yoga centers and right. Okay, so now because of the marketing heavy approach, they're really focused on the therapeutic effect, which, like you mentioned when you were describing it, was very much about relaxing and paying attention and focusing on one thing. But when it really comes to meditation and how it was like described and the reason they do it, it has that aspect of it, of calming down, but there's much more fruitful. Like I said, it has something to do with medicating the mind. So in order to medicate the mind, one must understand it, right? And this is a common misconception where people always associate meditation with the calming effect, but There's also the idea that if you're practicing something and you're not really paying attention, you're not alert, then if you have like certain thoughts or identifications that aren't appropriate, that aren't objectively beneficial for you, then you will definitely reinforce the wrong things. It just happens. If you're unaware, you're more likely to reinforce whatever habits that you have. So if you're unaware in meditation, that tends to happen as well. You just reinforce the same kind of habit. And for some people, that habit of just simply relaxing might be a good thing, because if you're high stress, then it's good to be able to relax. And I know I'm like stretching it out now.
Sure, yeah, but like, how does meditation? What I'm trying to get is like, so you think Muslim prayer is a kind of meditation? Would you say? Technically,
it's closer to a mantra, because there's a very, very heavy repetition in it, right? And there's not much of the investigation factor, right? So it's more of a, if you're going to compare it to one of the meditations, then it's closer to transcendental meditations again, which is like more focused on the surrender and the experience of specific thoughts, and with Islamic prayer being the main theme, would be the gratification of something bigger than you, being grateful, and repeating the Islamic prayers, which have meanings in their own terms, and each one would be, some people even choose which specific prayers that they pray on a more consistent basis, rather than just being random, right? So there's obviously specific surahs that's consistent. You must, but there's the other option, right? So meditation, it's more like, it drives away from that, because you know how you said in the beginning, you said something very important, which is what got me on this role, which is that you were very alert, right?
Yes, sure. I was alert. I was freaking out. I was like,
right?
what? Freaking space aliens in the middle of my meditation.
Yeah. That is a very important aspect. In fact, I would say that is the most important aspect.
Being alert while being in a meditative state.
Yeah.
As opposed to being calm. Wow.
Yeah. So the calmness is important, because when you're investigating those thoughts and those feelings that you get that arise, desires, fears, attachments, when there's an investigation of that, if you are calm, then you're able to navigate through that easily. Now, if there's panic, then you immediately want to escape away from it, right? Especially if it's one of the unpleasant feelings. So in meditation, you're supposed to sit and be very alert, so you can investigate many things. And there's benefits to that. But one of the main things that they really want to focus on is that you want to understand what you feel, you want to understand what you think, and you want to understand where your mind goes often. Like, where do you always go when you sit down? Where are the common places that you go to? And when you understand those things, you can see, and you can begin, so long as you're alert and you're always in that observer place, you can always investigate, well, is there a beneficial benefit to this, like objective benefit to this?
Is there?
And well, that's up to the discovery phase of the practitioner, right? And that's why in Buddhism, you find there's not, well, in different schools it varies, but for example, in Zen Buddhism, there's not many guidelines on what you should experience, because they want the student to discover for himself. They want you to go through that, because to be regurgitating,
like
just
copying people like this. Oh, I see it now.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
it.
That's pointless.
It's a journey.
They want you to have that authentic place of investigation. They want you to see it for yourself. But I would say, like, if we talk about desire, for instance, is that the things that they hold to high esteem would be wisdom, virtue, compassion, love, right? So those would be very important things in Buddhist culture. So now, if you take desire, for instance, or even a pleasant experience, and you say, well, what is the objective benefit of this? Well, if you investigate and you take your time to investigate with this, then maybe you will come upon the truth that, well, there is no objective benefit to this. right? And in fact, the obsession with it may push you away from those 4 qualities that we mentioned. So suppose you're unpleasant, you would justify not acting virtuously because you are not feeling present, right? Or and that could be on the opposite end of the spectrum, where now your pleasantness could drive you to do something unpleasant.
But so if you're not doing something that aligns with one of those 4 things, virtue, wisdom, compassion, kindness, whatever you said, like if I'm just playing video games, is that that's a pleasure, and maybe it doesn't objectively help me in like a lot of ways, but it does, and that makes me happier, makes me enjoy my time more.
Yeah, obviously that's a tautology, right? Of like,
sure,
I'm doing something pleasant, something that makes me happy, and it's good because it makes me happy, right?
I see.
Yeah, so they want you to. It's not to tell you not to do it, by the way. There's absolutely like no reason not to do that. It's just investigate it, because the problem isn't that we have desires or that we do things that are pleasant. The problem is how much we value them. It's in terms of in a position of hierarchy, the being pleasant or feeling good or chasing happiness is highly valued in society, even
chasing happiness
on a daily basis. Like success and happiness are like constantly advertised for everyone to chase, right? So the idea isn't for you to like completely shun that out. That's ridiculous. That's part of being human.
I mean,
right?
in my book, or when I was writing back like a few months ago, I wrote, the fact that we laugh at a dog when it chases its own tail is ridiculous, considering how a human chases happiness is happening every day. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's very much similar to a dog chasing its own tail, yeah.
Like, it'll never catch its tail, and as like we will never reach that point where we are completely happy for the rest of our lives. That does not exist.
Yeah.
There's no happiness is more of an experience and less of a state of, place. It's not somewhere you reach. It's not somewhere you can go to. It's something you can be in, surround yourself by, right? That's what I believe when we talk about things like chasing happiness, is you don't chase it. You just be in it. Right.
And another thing that they focus on is, well, if you are happy, what does that change in terms of those four qualities or 5 qualities that we talk about? Does that mean that only if you are happy can you experience those qualities, or can you experience them in other states? And now, if you can experience them in other states, why are you so obsessed with being happy? Right?
Wow. That makes
It's true. Yeah,
it's true.
But
what's the meaning of life?
Authentic investigation that makes it so important. It's like, sit down, see it for yourself, and the implications of that could vary from person to person.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, in the end of the day, happiness is not a thing you can get to. Like, what gives you happiness doesn't necessarily give me happiness.
Or is it even that important to be happy?
Yeah.
What
do you need? Because life will smack you in the face. You just need to find a way to keep doing what you're doing.
And that's why you find that theme of of tragedy and everything. So in Buddhist teachings, you hear the idea of the Maya and life is suffering constantly. In Western philosophy, you also hear it. And even in fucking Shakespearean works, bro, there's always the theme of tragedy, right? There's always the human tragedy. No matter where you go, there's always the fact that life is going to be an abundance of suffering more than it is an abundance of joy. So why are you so obsessed with the thing that is lacking in the experience most of the time? And that's a very good question to meditate on and to reflect on. One thing I want to say is from studies, for example, like clinical psychologist studies, it shows that, and this is just based off what I've read from Jordan Peterson's book, and he was saying that most positive emotion is actually experienced in the process of the chasing of the goal rather than when you achieve it. Most of the positive emotion comes through that. So even neurologically, we're oriented in a way that's don't be
It's
too
not
obsessed
about
with getting there. Yeah,
It's about
because
the
it doesn't
process.
matter, right?
yeah, it's about the process. Yep.
Wow.
It
Yeah,
is,
and
yeah.
it is true that it happens on a more like physiological scale, because like sure you can be happy by like staying at home and playing video games all day, sure, or you can do something that's difficult and more
Right.
difficult and more difficult, and every single day once you get better, and you'll just feel better. It's not
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you'll feel happier, but if you're doing something that's doing a positive in the world or in yourself, you'll just feel
Exactly.
better. Yeah.
That is much more meaningful than feeling happy either way, right? Now the feeling of happiness is, well, that's why you have the idea of Maya, right? Of the dream states. And what the idea of the dream states is, well, any state of consciousness is dreamt, which means first the consciousness state arises, right? And if you sit in meditation for long periods of time, you notice that very much, because you can experience ecstasy in meditation, but then it will go away, right? And the way that happens is
You're just gonna meditate forever.
right. No, it's just anytime you sit and you meditate, you'll notice, right? And I'm sure you've meditated before, so you've noticed this. It's like first a state will arise, right? Like anxiousness or calmness or whatever that may be. Then it's believed to be true, very much like, oh, this is how I feel, this is it. Like for sure, this is how I feel. And then as time passes by, that state dies away, right? And that is the dream state. That is the state. It's not that your feelings aren't real. No, they're very much real, but they're like a dream. They're believed to be true briefly, and then they die away. It passes, right? And
So what's the difference between meditation and reflection? To reflect on something, to deeply think about it,
well, there's no actual like difference when it comes to like how if reflecting means to investigate and to do it alertly, then it would be very similar to meditation. The idea is that meditation added this, culturally, it added that ritual element of sit down, choose the right environment, and that's because it focuses on, well, other qualities like harmony, purity, calmness, clarity. You want to have those in your experience. So you want to make sure that you're in harmony with your environment, so you're comfortable with it. You're in a suitable environment. You want to make sure that it's pure. It's pure. Well, that means it's clean, because you want to make sure that the kind of paradigm that you're in promotes purity of thoughts, purity of being, purity of action, right? And then you want to make sure that you have that clarity, and it's a very calm place to be in, because you want to be able to, like I said, to navigate through that investigation without any panic. Because sometimes if you realize your incompetence or your greed or the places where you're lacking, if you're not in a suitable environment, panic could happen very easily, right? And that's also another reason why there's often a master with the monks, right? And that master helps them navigate. It's like you look for solace in the master. You relate
guided meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Even what on a more foundational level, like the role of a therapist is also to bring that trust to the patients. Like, oh, you're okay. Don't worry. We'll walk through this together, right? It's a very, very common theme that you need to have a certain trust in your environment, so that if what you're identifying falls apart, you don't fall apart. Because there's that fear when you're identifying with something. Is that fear, if I let go of the identification, now I will be gone. Right, and that is the most. That is one way of looking at the idea of ego death, for example.
Wow.
You don't get mad anymore.
What do you mean? The feeling of being angry? Absolutely.
All right. So like you're playing like whatever Call of Duty, you get blasted in the head.
Well, that's not something that gets me angry on a personal level, right? But there are things that do get me angry.
I mean, let's not confuse anger for frustration, right? Like with gaming, it's more of a frustration and less.
I know people get angry. Have a good
Those
time.
those
Playing
people
soccer,
need a
FIFA.
life.
Every
all
time
I'm
he'd
gonna
lose
say.
FIFA, he'd be like, Shubek! He throws control on the screen. It's
I mean, that guy just needs,
what does he need?
Jesus at least. I don't know.
At least Jesus.
Like medication comes second, but goddamn, like literally.
Well, Ali, you don't tell me this isn't common. Like you don't have like you've played League of Legends, Ali. Why'd you quit?
I left that game. I quit League because it's a toxic environment. Because people
Yeah.
get too personal way too quickly. Because they're hiding behind a username and they're hiding behind the champion that everyone else plays.
Yeah. Well,
That's why I quit League.
you see, like you mentioned, the environment really plays a huge role in how those experiences manifest themselves. But more importantly, other than now that you get angry, well, you've realized what anger is and what role it plays. And when you don't give it so much importance, the feeling might be there, but the action of acting out on it is now reduced tremendously in amplitude. You won't act out as irrationally as you would when you were 4 years old now, would you? Unfortunately, some people, they reach a point where they still act in the same way that they do act in the adolescent years, right? Whether they're 25 or 15, you really can't tell a difference when they get angry.
The medical term for that is man-child.
Man-child, yeah.
A man-child. What's a man-child, Ali? What's the medical term for a man-child?
It is man-child. That is the medical term.
Who is a man-child?
A man-child is someone that just won't grow up, basically.
Peter
Like
Pan.
they pretty no. That's just stories. Like I've seen people who are actually man-childs.
What do you mean?
30 or like 30, 35, late 30s actually, not even 35, really late 30s, still playing games, raging at a screen of pixels moving and taking everything way too personal because of a game.
Yeah.
Like, like, and then like literally gets upset for the rest of the day. Like, honestly, if I've reached the age of 35 and I still don't have a family, bro, I will know something is wrong. Something is
true.
Definitely wrong. If I reach the age of 35, 38, okay, and like I'll say 40 just to be fair. If I'm because the person I'm thinking of, like I already gave it away. I already gave it away that he's in his late 30s, right? But then again, we're really not on speaking terms, so he can pretty much, piss off. I'm not gonna care. But like those, like I just can't wrap my head around people like that. A man-child, someone who is intellectually retarded, even though life has smacked them so many times. And I use that word heavily.
Yeah,
retarded.
Right. Yeah, in Zen, there's a saying. It's like there's 4 kinds of horses, right? So there's the horse that will start to run and sprint at the sight of the shadow of the whip, right? And then there's another horse that will start to run and sprint at the sound of the wind. And there's one would be at the light touch of the whip, and the final one would be when the whip
hits,
burns through their skin and their bones. That's when they start to
well this horse has been stuck by a knife in the butt and it still won't freaking move. So I don't know what Zen Buddhism is gonna do for that, but like honestly, like this guy the whip has been replaced by a sword and it's like stabbing the back and he like just won't move. So
what do you do with if you have someone like that around?
I leave them.
You leave them?
Pure and simple. I leave them. Why? Because they are just weight on my back that is unnecessary, unbeneficial, like on everything, basically. Like there's no other way of describing it. Like I am trying, all of us, listen, anyone who's not constantly trying to better himself, right?
Sure.
I see as just someone that's like, I don't know how to describe it, but I just don't like people that are like this.
That's a lot of
because I believe.
Sorry.
I mean, if you've reached a point in life where you don't need to better yourself because the stage you are at is passively moving you forward,
No,
that's fine.
But everyone's like, love yourself. Don't worry about it. No need to.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
that's
no, no,
true.
no,
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 just be
no.
yourself.
To love
buddy.
yourself is called being in
Be
denial.
yourself.
That's how I honestly view it as.
It's
Love
okay, you're
yourself, you know,
perfect the way you are. You're
yeah, no,
perfect.
that's called being in denial. That's called being lazy and in denial. I'll say it, and I don't care if people get angry at me
Yeah.
for saying this.
I
But
mean,
if you're saying that you are perfect just the way you are, right? And that's a Bruno Mars song, like no. Everyone has room for improvement. Everyone.
yeah,
Everyone has room for
absolutely.
I don't
So
think
that's
that's where
my
I
idea
think you
of-
can not hate yourself. It's like
Don't
be-
hate
you know,
yourself, no.
yeah, but
But like,
you need to push harder. You have to
Yeah.
every single day.
The idea is don't absolutely shit on yourself when you're trying to fucking evaluate your actions.
Yeah.
Like don't completely now say, oh, I'm a worthless human being because I haven't been doing this and that. It's like calm down. That's where self-love and compassion comes into play.
that's true. Life is a balance.
Yeah.
A balance of what?
That's it's a balance of everything, bro. Balance of
what?
time, mind,
Time.
space, intellect, good and bad, everything. If you tip the scale in any direction, right? It's just, it's not game over necessarily because you can always rebalance out everything, but there's a reason sometimes things go bad. My mom's gonna hold this against me, I know, but like, here's how I picture life, right? Picture a plate, right? And it's on a pivot, like a needle. When you perfectly balance that plate, which does not happen. Let's be honest, like that just can't happen, right? The plate's bound to fall one way or another, but you keep constantly trying to balance wherever you can on that plate. That's how I picture life to be as when I say life is a balance. It's not a plank on a needle and you're just trying to balance it either or. No, it's a plate on a pivot that you have to constantly improve and shift the weight to keep it in harmony.
Or else.
That's how I see it. Or else things are just gonna go bad until you do it.
That's a
Either
whole new
your
spin
love life
on-
and relationship, or your work and your ethics and your sleep and like all that stuff. Legit. It's all on that plate. You just need to learn to move it around. Keep it in balance.
If this is so important, Ali, why don't they teach us this in school?
Because in school they're too busy teaching us about who was the first to do anything. Anyone wants to deny? Who was the first to discover electricity? Who was the first to discover America? Who was the first to do this? Who was the first man to land on the moon? They don't teach us any philosophy or things that are important.
I have Google for all those
Right?
answers.
It's true. It's true. That's why for me, I see it as like if I was to remodel a school, I would base it on the child itself. Like where does he or she want to go in the future? What do they want to do? Then I start putting some subjects, let's call it major, minor subjects, right? Major subjects, math, chemistry, biology, science, all that stuff, right? Your minor subjects would be things like philosophy, life education, life training, responsibilities class, social responsibility. Let's call it social responsibilities class. Things like teaching kids how to do basic stuff that we still are yet to discover.
Ali, we have that in Lebanon. And
Yeah,
in
we
our
do.
school. And I'm telling you, I
You
don't know
do?
how effective it is. We have civics classes and philosophy.
No,
Psychology
no.
classes
See, that's,
and whatnot. And
it's not about
old.
not-
It's
okay,
very
you-
old. The education system's so old. It's just like very old
It's
practice.
old,
Applies for
exactly.
our
So it's
century.
not that it's wrong. It's not that it's wrong to have. It's just that they're teaching you shit that's like obsolete, outdated, done, expired.
There's not enough practice of it as well. It's mainly academic, right? And there's only so much academia can give you, bro. You need to actually, well, if you're talking about social responsibility, well, you need to actually go participate.
Exactly. It should be more practice and less theory with these minor subjects.
I mean, you can see some countries in the Nordic East,
They do that.
they
What do
they're
they do?
heavily. Well, they have a lot of practice as part of their curriculums, right? So the students they get to experience learning skills such as carpentry and whatnot.
Yep. Before they decide to do
there's a
what I
variety of
did.
things that they get to practice. and they don't do long hours. It's not very academically heavy. It's not focused on homework either.
Homework, you go home. You have 3 hours of homework when you go home.
Yeah, it's like, bro,
I mean, honestly,
you did 8 hours of school. Like,
yeah. I mean, like we have something here in Kuwait, and it's also in Dubai. It's kind of similar, where kids get a chance to see what it's like. It's called Kidzania. I don't know if you've heard of this before.
Kids Mundo. Yeah.
Kids Mundo, yeah.
I guess no. It's like
What do you mean?
it's-
You go, you
it's-
dress up as like a freaking Bob the Builder, and you walk in, you start building a house.
exactly. See, it sounds stupid because it is. Because like they're too young to understand what's going on. Like I for me, this is what I believe. When do we graduate? Usually at what age?
17, 18.
17, 18, right? Let's say 17, right? 17-ish, 18. I believe that everyone is supposed to take a gap year and just go discover A, themselves, B, what they want to do for the rest of their lives before it's too late, and C, just what are their future plans, you know?
You did
Let them
that?
sit.
You did that before?
I did that.
Oh,
I did. Yeah, I did. I had a year off where I was technically repeating year 12, right? Until opportunity came on my doorsteps and I was like, peace school, right? And
you learned a lot in that time.
dude, I've learned so much in that time. I have. Like, people aren't going to believe me for saying this, but then again, I don't care what people believe. So I really did. I learned a lot about myself, about the world, about everything.
Yeah, I'll second that. I mean, I'll say I didn't have it before, like I went to school, but after going to school, after I just graduated undergrad, it's so like I have friends that keep going back to grad school. That's awesome. But working and having actual experiences has taught me way more than school did. I don't know. And
It does. Especially Ali, since you're for like thousands of miles away from your family.
Sure.
Honestly, did you not learn so many new things that you should have known back in school?
And
how did you learn them? You learned them basically by
well, for me, it's like I had to
learn.
learn them. Yeah, you don't survive. Yeah.
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 So did I. So did our Ameer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ameer. My bad. I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. Well, so did Ameer. You're far away from your family too, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm
Well,
in the
so
UK.
am I.
there.
I live in Jordan. Okay, still, it's relatively close, but their absence helped me figure out how to get my life straight. You know,
That's interesting.
I need to check on the fridge, otherwise I'll starve. I need to fill the stuff with water, otherwise I can't take a shower or clean or use the toilet. I need to pay my electricity bills, otherwise so and so. And it keeps you in check. Why? Because there's no parents to protect the slaps from life, you know? Like, you're out in the open and life is out to get you. You either do or die.
That seems to be a common theme in how you deal with things, isn't it? Like do or die.
With me,
Based of what,
Yeah.
like from watching this channel, I've seen that you often go back to that theme of do or die.
I mean,
It is.
that's how I like to think of it. Also,
it's the most effective way.
Put yourself on edge. Yeah,
yourself
because you
on
will learn.
edge.
You force yourself. I feel like, I mean, I know this is like a little bit of a controversy, but there are a lot of people that are guys our age who are still at home with their parents, with their families, right? And people are doing that way into their 20s, 30s, right? And like, yeah, I'll save up until I can go out and do my own thing. But then I don't know, do you literally become a man-child when you're 28 years old and you're living with your family?
Not necessarily.
Can you have the sense of independence and live with your family at the same time?
I mean,
I would
listen,
not think so.
It would be
it depends.
difficult for sure.
It would be difficult, but like I know some people who are kind of like this. They are more independent than I am, yet they live with their family, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be from that certain angle or view of, oh, you still live with your parents, you're a man-child. No, that's not what a man-child is. I would diagnose a person of being a man-child based on when I speak to them, right? Like, how do they think? What is their intellect? Like, I pick their brains.
Yeah, what's a man-child thinking?
Like, what annoys them? Can they hold their anger? Do they have self-restraint and like what is the word? I forgot the word, but you know what I'm trying to reach. Yeah, self-discipline. You know, do they know their limits? Do they know how and when and why and where? Like, if they do, they're not a man-child. You know, they're actually way ahead. They're intellectual. If they fall somewhere in the middle, yes and no to some of these questions, they're okay. But someone who fails at every single question, that's a man-child to me.
Yeah.
So
That
So
is
much
a
of being mature has to do with individual authority here, isn't it? Like you have to take up your responsibility, take accountability for your actions, and just say, this is on me. Even
True.
when it comes to with your feelings and your thoughts, it's like, yeah, I might be thinking some bullshit, but it's on me whether I act on that or I don't. It's on me
Pretty
whether
much.
I succumb to those feelings of desire or whatever it may be, or I don't, or I simply act based on wisdom and virtue, right? So
Yeah.
amazing. A lot of people love man-child. I like to think of it. People like to blame everything on the world versus
It's
like
never their
someone
fault.
mature likes to blame everything
It's
or most things on
never their fault.
Mhm.
I've seen this. I literally have seen this. It's never their fault, especially while gaming. That's where I've seen it the most. It's never their fault. Oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? That could have saved me. That could have. That would have. But it wasn't
Should
our
have.
fault, right? Like it should. Like it did not, and that's not the case. These are the kind of people that expect the world to move in a certain way so that it fits the giant scheme of things, so that they can do what they have to do. But that's not life.
I mean,
Again,
Ali,
do
you're
or die.
saying that, but like this is like a very popular philosophy that's coming out. That's like, okay, you're the center of the universe. Everything
Yeah.
should go your way.
just think about it, it will manifest.
Think about it, man. Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
You know how many times I've heard that bullshit before? If I just send my aspirations to the universe, the whole solar system is gonna stand still. Be like, oh, that one speck of dust on this like speck of dust planet wants this. No, you want something, you do for it. You work for it. You actually put effort for it. But me waking up every morning and saying, universe, I want a 9 out of 10 to marry and have a lot of beautiful kids and get checks of $1 million. That's not how it works. It's not.
So funny because it's true, man. And I hope people listen to this and they're like, okay, got it.
No, you know what's going to happen? If people actually do listen to this, they're going to be like, oh, you're wrong. And I'm just going to be attacked by a bunch of 14-year-old girls who listen to Billie Eilish, like, non-ironically. That's literally what's going to happen. Cancel culture is out for me, boys. I'm telling you.
Ali,
In a year's time, I will be canceled. Mark it. Mark on your calendars.
first of all, Ali, we're never going to get canceled. It's impossible to cancel.
You can't cancel a person who doesn't care. That's the issue.
That's the issue. First of all,
You
everyone's
just
thinking of
can't.
canceling us. Go ahead, try. I love the publicity. Just don't think it'll work.
I mean,
you
I hope no one from school tries to cancel me because, bro,
yes,
I got
that's
some
different.
embarrassing shit on me. I got some bad stuff on me, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise,
Do you think there's something the opposite? So of a man-child is someone who doesn't take any responsibility.
yeah.
You think there's a
The
problem
opposite
with
of
maybe taking
man-child-
too much responsibility, or we should
No.
strive to take as much responsibility as possible?
I'll
That's
answer your
Jordan
question.
Peterson's train of thought. He's like, he says his argument is that
Pick up as
every
much as you can.
person, as much as you can carry that load, as much as you can carry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
For
can I
me-
link it with one thing before you start?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think why Jordan Peterson says that is because he, as a therapist, there's that mindset of ERP, which is evocative response therapy, ERT, I mean, which basically says the more you there's things that you don't want to face, the more you pursue them and the more you pick them up, the more you deal with that stresses, the more your tolerance increases for it. And now you're more able to handle life. So a lot of what he says has to do with that, which is like put yourself under the load, because when you put yourself under the load, you come out, stronger.
And
you
you're less
often
likely
release
to feel like smaller things coming your way if
Yeah.
you like already are moving in a direction.
And in fact, just to relate it to the thing we were talking about earlier, meditation is partly that. It's partly sitting with your thoughts, being uncomfortable with whatever bullshit is coming and whatever bullshit you're feeling, and just being okay with it. And more consistency is much more important than volume when it comes to meditation. Just doing it on a daily basis, putting yourself under that stress on a daily basis so that you can now come out stronger.
I mean, to answer your question, what's the opposite of a man-child? I'd say is a child or a person who is way beyond his years in thought and speaking and things like that. That's
child
like
man.
a child. It's a young adult. I would dare to say that's what a young adult is.
Uh-huh.
It's someone who is like born with not born with wisdom. There's no such thing as born with wisdom, but has seen enough in life to make him act like an adult and know how to think, right? Know how to speak, know how to interact socially, have restraint in themselves. All the things I mentioned that a man-child doesn't have, they do. So, like, dude, you are a good example, Ali, of that, the complete opposite of a man-child. Because, like, even when you were a kid, bro, like, the way you were thinking, like, everything. Even though you put the okay, I take it back, Ali. Honestly, I take it back, bro. Screw it. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, as a child, even like, dude, let's be honest. You were way beyond your years.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
fair.
I know.
I guess not.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah. Why? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
what is it?
I don't know what causes it. Honestly, I really don't.
I know you on a personal level. I know some of the things that you've been through as a child, some of the things you've been through in your adolescent years, and I think those put you in situations that are more difficult than the average person could have to deal with.
Especially at that age and that specific time of your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when you go to areas that's like war-ridden and
that's crazy.
You see these kids and these kids are like talking and their intellect is way beyond them. Why? Because either they're male authoritarian, whatever they want to call it nowadays. Your father figure, right, is gone. Now you're the man of the house. So you have been placed in this position early. You either step up to it, do what you have to do, or unfortunately you lose someone else, and again it comes back to do or die. Now you look at someone
fail in that situation. It's very common that people
it is
in those situations.
It is more a lot of people. Yeah, but now let's look at the polar opposite of that. You have someone who lives in a really good house, whatever he wants he gets, in Arabic dallu'.
I don't think that's a really good house then. If whatever he wants he gets is not a good house.
Exactly. Why? Because they're getting everything. They don't have to work for it. As my dad always says to me, easy come, easy go, right? And like, there's nothing there to push them in a certain direction where they do have to grow up, which is unfortunately for them, because your parents aren't going to be around all the time. Your dad's wallet isn't going to be full all the time. One day, your dad or your mom, and I hope all of our parents get to live 100 to 200 years, hopefully. You can stop knocking on shit now. But one day they're not going to be here. I say this a lot as well in the podcast. The one thing that's been promised to you the day you were born is there will be a day where you will die.
What are you going to do in between? It's true.
Yeah.
We don't
tragedy is a constant.
We don't have too much time. We have to wrap up here. Ameer,
shoot. Yeah.
I just want to share. Maybe this will help people. But since we were talking about this is kind of my mindset on how I do what I do today. I'm a huge fan of visualizing into the future. I'm a huge fan of visualizing at the end of this year, end of 2 years, end of 5 years, end of 10 years where I want to be, end of 1,000, 10,000 years where this podcast is going to be. Who knows? So that's why really when I'm thinking of this podcast specifically, I've never told you this, but I guess this is the best time. I really do think you have freaking Michelangelo made those freaking statues that's beyond human, right? And you've had people you have artists when they take on such a huge load. Mozart, these things stick with us for forever. And hopefully my idea with this podcast, the reason why I want to do it daily, meet all these people from all around the world, is if in 10, 15, 100, 200 years time, someone can click on one of these videos and be like, oh, it's like a teleportation mechanism. It's I don't know, it's art, hopefully, that I would like to live on for the longest time in history. So this is
There you
like
go.
a lot of my decisions on that are taken on my day-to-day are taken on that note. So hopefully someone, if there's one thing I'll say is plan. If there's one thing I'll recommend is definitely plan, visualize. Don't
delay gratification.
Why do you, Mark Twain has this quote, why do you sit there like an envelope without any address on it? Plan. That's it.
That's it. Or in other words, a vision without a plan towards it is a dream. That's how we're ending it off. Anyways,
Like,
Amir,
thank you.
honestly, thank you for listening to me ramble on about absolutely nothing. It's really good to do sometimes, and I enjoyed this. So,
Thank you for having me, man.
subscribe, share this, please.
Do what you gotta do.
Be a man, child, grow up.
Pretty much before life hits you in the face in a way you won't expect. Peace and love.
Bye-bye.